We're going over the AFC East and the AFC North. We'll start with the Bills. 11.5 is the over-under. You take the over, it's minus 135. I love this team. I'm going over. I think they're going to have the most wins in football. I think that's plus 480 to get like the number one, right? The best record in football.
Best record.
Plus 480. That's what it is, right? Listen, they had the best defense in football last year. They lose Dable as the OC. They get Ken Dorsey in there. Yep. But like I said, number one scoring defense. They add Von Miller. Still maybe a little old, but definitely helped the Rams last year. 60 pressures, 19 quarterback hits. They extend Diggs. They add O.J. Howard and Jamison Crowder. I know they got rid of Beasley and Sanders. Tre'Davious White is back from injury. They get that other cornerback in the draft. They love this kid, Elam from Florida. Their schedule is best rest differential in the league. I don't even think they need it. I think this is a 13-win team. I'm going over. And Harry, I think you're going over as well.
Sal, I'm with you on a lot of things so far this year. Yeah, I'm going to go over 11.5 with you. Average 12 the last two seasons. Josh Allen, fantastic. Obviously, the last two seasons averages 8 touchdowns rushing a season in his NFL through 4 seasons. Pretty amazing. I wouldn't think it'd be that high. 87 touchdowns, 9,000 yards the last 2 seasons. You mentioned the defense, Sal. First in points against last year, first in yards against. And I think this team really is on a mission, considering how that Kansas City game in the playoffs ended last year. It was disastrous ending. But I think this team is focused, ready to go. I think if we get a huge season, a breakout season from Gabriel Davis, wide receiver of the Bills. He had that monster game against Kansas City with 4 touchdowns in the playoffs last year. I think that carries over as well. And I think you're right, Sal. I think 13's a solid number here. I'm going over 11.5 for the Bills as well.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that offense, it's Harry's keeper, Gabriel Davis, in our league. It's now 30 years. Is it going to be 30 years? So, yeah, I mean, I think that offense is just going to be ridiculous. They had a game where they didn't score 10 against the Jaguars, right? They lost. I think we won't see any of those anymore. I think we're going to see more of what we saw against the Patriots in the playoffs and the Chiefs against the playoffs, where it's just not a lot of empty possessions. Josh Allen doing his thing. The first year, offensive coordinator might make a difference, but I really don't think so. But let's move on to the Dolphins, who I don't even think come in second in this division. 8.5 is the over under, slightly edge to the over, minus 135. I'm going under. I don't like this team at all. Now, they did everything they could. I think they're 8-9. They did everything they could for Tua. They traded for Tyreek Hill. Right? They added Chase Edmonds. They added Mostert. They added Cedric Wilson. They added Connor Williams. We lose Wilson and Connor Williams, Parlay Kid, to the Dolphins. They franchise Gesicki. Bridgewater's the backup. I think he ends up seeing as much time as Tua. I really do. I don't trust this Mike McDaniel. I just don't like everything about this team. The first four are tough: New England, at Baltimore, versus Buffalo, and at Cincy. They could be 1-3. I don't know if they win. I know the next 7 are easy. Their added games are at the Chargers, Houston, and at San Francisco. I like it 8-9. I don't like this team in the playoff. Martin Weiss had an interesting theory. They built this team around Brady. I was like, oh, they've done everything for Tua, but did they bring all these guys in for Brady? Thinking Brady, it does seem like something that, it seems like the way they went about it is how you would do if you thought Tom Brady was going to be your quarterback. But anyway, I like the under here. What do you guys think? Who has this one?
I got it. Yeah. You would think, if they had Brady, this team would be really good in terms of the skill that they have on there. But I think the Dolphins, to me, I'm going over the 8.5, but I will say the Dolphins to me have the biggest variable. They could win. I don't know. I feel like they could go 4 wins. They could go 12 wins, and I really wouldn't be shocked either way. The only thing is, I will say, I'm not sure I like Mike McDaniel as a head coach, but he's supposed to be this brilliant offensive mind. And, while everybody has trashed Tua, and I've trashed Tua, we've all trashed Tua, he's still 13-8 as a starter. And I mean, they added all that skill to the team. So I don't know. This season may come down to week 1. Right. They have the Patriots week 1, which, although I do like them in week 1 because they did beat the Pats twice last season. I do think the Patriots are going to struggle early in the season. They might get better. But if the Dolphins can make it through week 4, okay, then at least they have a nice stretch until like week 13. Then it gets really tough again. So I do think they have some good pieces on defense. They did invest in the line, right, to keep Tua up, adding 2 linemen this season. So I don't think they make the playoffs, but I especially in the AFC, but I still think they go 9-8.
Yeah, I went back and forth between which team gets 8 and which team gets 9 wins between the Patriots and Dolphins. And you're right, it could come down to week 1 right there.
Maybe we bet them both in like 8 and 9 wins.
I just don't like, I don't know. I just, I think I've lost a lot of money on this team. I don't know that Tyreek Hill, that's a great landing spot for him. I don't know that he automatically pays dividends. Now the Patriots I have at 9 wins. I went over 8.5. minus 115 if you want the over there. Belichick, 23rd year. You got Matt Patricia as an advisor. Wow, that's big. Really, do you believe in Mac Jones, right? He had like 69% the first 13 games and then at 61% completion the last 4. They traded for Devontae Parker, and I like that. And then I'm looking into it. He had the worst separation rate out of any receiver. Like they really, Butler's hurt now. Their defense, they're coming on. They allowed 622 yards versus Buffalo. That is not a Bill Belichick team. I look at all this and I don't know why I'm taking the Patriots over. Their extra games are at Las Vegas, home against Indy, and at Arizona. But I do think they scratch out a 9-8, which is not enough for them to make the playoffs. They end at Buffalo. That game might not mean anything for the Bills at that point. I think they start off at Miami with a win and they go 9-8, but a lackluster year. Darren, Darren, you're going over, huh?
Yeah, I'm a Patriots guy here, Sal. I think this is the same scenario we were looking at last year. But one factor you got to think about too is losing, their offensive coordinator, play caller. Nobody knows who's calling the plays there. It seems like right now, which is a big factor. Harry's boy, Coach Judge, I think, is back in the fold too. So these guys always end up back with the Patriots because that's where, these guys get the most out of their players. So what you want? They did win 10 games last year, Sal. We're asking for 9 right now. They were 6-2 on the road, so they're a good road team. I think they're getting at least 3 wins out of the division, probably minimum. Then you're at Steelers. It's a possible win. Home versus the Lions. You're at the Browns, home versus the Bears, home versus the Colts.
That's the stretch. That's the stretch right there. Lions,
they got
Lions, Browns, Bears, Jets, Colts, and then the Jets again. You got to get like 4 or 5 of those, I think.
They got to get, yes. And the Patriots are the type of team that usually don't leave those games, back. They usually win those type of games because Belichick is just that type of coach. So they were, and here's the thing. They were the number 2 scoring defense. We harp on that game against the Bills to end the season, but they only gave up 16 points a game last year, right? A lot of times with the no-name defense, so it almost doesn't matter who's there. And here's the surprising thing, Sal. They were the 6th best scoring offense in the league last year. 6th best, the Patriots. Yeah. Now, granted, they had a stretch where they were amazing, right? Against some of the weaker teams.
Oh, you couldn't tell you. They beat Atlanta on that Thursday night. Like they were right in the thick of it right there. You're like, oh my God. They're going to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
And Mac Jones is only going to be better in year 2. And yes, Parker, not a great pickup, but Parker, Bourne, Myers, and Aguilar still give them more receivers than they've had in the past. Nothing great, but more than they've had in the past. And Sal, their offensive line is a top 10 ranked offensive line, and they have a good ground game, right? Harris, Stevenson, they're going to get a lot of that ground game. I think this team wins 9 games. I think that's the bet you got to take. You got to take the over here.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you. You did a better job selling it than I did. They lose J.C. Jackson, and then some of the mainstays like Hightower, Bolden, Van Noy, Winovich, Gunner's gone. But I do think they gut out someone. I hear that they lose like a defensive back, and it doesn't even seem to matter, right? Like it's like, well, he's put wide receivers at D-back, and that's the whole thing. When is it going to catch up to him? Are the Patriots ever going to have a 5-12 year with Belichick? I don't think so. I don't think this is the year either way. So I'm going over here. Jets, I had them over. I'm going to keep them over, and I'm going to say they go 6-11. But really bad offseason, right? Becton out for the year. He's gone. Wilson, we don't know when he's coming back. And so it looks like Flacco against the Ravens to start. Talk about interesting receiver sets. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Garrett Wilson, Berrios. I like that. They added Laken Tomlinson, the guard. They really are going to have to block now. Obviously, Sauce Gardner, like I mentioned, Garrett Wilson. These are nice picks. Breece Hall, they really did a great job, bang up job in the draft. Their extra games are at Seattle, Jacksonville, and at Denver. Definitely winnable. They play all 4 AFC North in the first 4 weeks, which I think is odd. But I don't know. I can't get too excited for them. I don't think they're going 500. They had 4 wins last year. I think they improved by 2 games, but they were 0-12 in the AFC in the last 2 years. So it makes it tough to really like them, but to really lean on them. Bri, you're going under.
Yeah, I'm going under. I think when we did this a while ago, I think we maybe touched on the Jets, and I might have said over. And I want to go over. I actually kind of want to like this team, or not that I'd be rooting for them, but I do really like some of the parts that they have here. I know a lot of people shit on Wilson, but I think he still has a chance to be good. And I like parts of the roster. The problem is the Jets just seem to have bad luck health-wise. I mean, Wilson's definitely missing week 1. I'm guessing week 2 is going to be the big one, right? Because they have a chance to win in Cleveland, but I don't know.
Right, I think they're going to lose to the Ravens anyway, right? So, but then at Cleveland and versus Cincinnati.
Yeah, that Cleveland one is a big one for them, right? But how many games can they win through week 11, right? It's tough. And like when you look at it, sure, they could win 3 or 4 of those first 11 games, but they could also lose every one of them. I do think they're going to be very competitive. I think they just fall short in some of these games this season. I think maybe next season's the year where they take the bigger leap. I mean, you could say now, like, if they win 2 games in the division, which is possible, and, you beat Chicago, Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle, then you are looking at 6 wins there, and maybe they beat another team. So, but I don't know. It just seems like it was a bad start already for the season for the Jets. So I'm gonna say under.
All right. There you go. So those are our 4. I think we're across the board in sync here with the Bills to win the division, -230. The Dolphins are +450. The Patriots 5-1. The Jets 20-1. We were talking on extra points. Could the Bills win the division with Case Keenum as quarterback? I think they kind of could. I really could see them doing it. I don't know that I'd say that about any other division and a quarterback going out. But Harry, you have anything to add to this? I mean, Bills. I'm going to say, like, we're doing our team props next. I like best regular season record. I have them 13 wins, and I think +450 is the way to go. Harry, you though are going Jets for you're really getting in the nitty gritty here for your prop.
Yeah, let's take. I'm going to take the Jets in week 2 to record their first win of the season at +170. Like Brian said, they'll be playing at Cleveland that game. It took till week 4 last year for them to beat Tennessee. And I think, like I said, it's going to be week 2 this year. They drafted great, Sal, you mentioned. And I think this is a situation where they open up the season. You mentioned the first 4 games for the Jets happen to be against the AFC North. So with that said, week 1, we have Baker Bowl for the Panthers are playing the Browns. And I think that's going to take away. That's going to be a big game for Baker Mayfield in the Brown situation. I don't find a lot of exciting things with Brissett here. Week 3, they play Pittsburgh on Thursday night at home. So in week 2, with
week 3 Wilson they play Cincinnati week 3. Harry.
Or week 3, sorry, all right. Week 4 they play Pittsburgh.
COVID Harry's fun, isn't it?
My bad. Yeah, week 4. Week 4 on Thursday. They play on Thursday. So playing Cincy, having to play Pittsburgh at the week after that. Let down in week 2. That's the spot where the Jets can get that win, especially if Wilson comes back and he'll be ready for that game after losing probably badly to Baltimore. The Jets get it done in week 2 against Cleveland.
All right. And that's +170 to get their first win. I'm trying. What would that spread be anyway, Bri? Brissett home against Flacco, likely. Probably 3 point. I don't know. Cleveland's
3.5.
Yeah, 3. Yeah.
3.5.
All right. Okay. All right. Bri, you have the Bills 12 wins exactly, 5-1. I like these bets because you could bet against them. And then, like I said, that last game of the year might not mean anything. It might mean everything.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at a few different things here. You have the Bills plus, Bills to win 12 games is plus 500. Bills to win 13 games is plus 450. I'm going to go with the 12, though. It's funny. Bills had a really weird season last year, right? They're 11-6, but the games they won, they pretty much just completely dominated. But I will say last year, though, the only thing that I guess is a negative for this year is last year their schedule was very weak. This season, the first half of the schedule is extremely tough. If they do start off 5-2 or better, then you're probably looking at 13 wins. I think even with a 4-3 start, when you look at the end of that schedule, they can clearly go, if they go 4-3, they might at most probably lose 2 more games the rest of the way.
I have them losing the first week and at Baltimore, but I do have them 5 and actually 6-2 to start. So.
6-2. Then they could get tripped up, right? Maybe a Cincinnati game or maybe one of the Patriot
Minnesota,
games
something stupid,
late in the season could get tripped up. But I'm going to say 12-5 because again, we thought they were the best team. They seemed like they were the best team by the end of the year, but they were still 11-6 with a pretty weak schedule. So I'm going to say they fall somewhere between the last 2 seasons.
It is so crazy, right? They were so close to making it to the AFC Championship, but then the Chiefs were so close to making it to the Super Bowl, and the Bengals were so close to, if anyone had a quarterback, they wouldn't have even won the division, right?
And the Raiders.
Your Raiders were driving the tide.
Close.
Yeah. All these teams. All right, Parlay Kid, you're having fun with this. They have exact finishes. Bills, Pats, Dolphins, Jets.
That's what I'm doing here. So it's plus 280. Obviously, you like the first and you like the last. It depends on where you think the Bills and Pats are falling. And I'm just gonna say that Belichick, over the new Finns coach, is the edge there, no matter what. And the Patriots will find a way to finish second in that division, whether they have 9 or 10 wins. Dolphins fall a little short. That's all. I'm gonna roll with that exact finish. I just think it comes down to the Patriots, Dolphins, and I'll edge with the Patriots always.
You guys I have the Bills as the only team in this division making the playoffs. Yeah, Parlay Kid, you have the Patriots getting in there or no?
That's a good question, Sal. I mean, it really. I'll never bet against the Patriots. I don't think I would put money on the Patriots making the playoffs, though. I don't think I'd bet against it. I don't think I'd bet on it. I just let that one go. This could be a one team making the playoffs from this division, Sal.
That's what I think the Bengals make it, and I got 2 in the West. Bry. Well, I don't want to show my hand just yet, but those I think are the wild cards right there. All right, AFC North, 10.5 is the over-under. The leaning under is minus 120. I really like this team. I like them to go over. I think they win 12 games. What's not to like? They got so screwed last year. Lamar got hurt. Dobbins got hurt before the season even got going, really. Gus Edwards also out, so they had no running game, really. Yeah. Stanley and Humphrey and Peters. I love them. I love them to jump back here. They have a new DC and Mike McDonald. Harbaugh's in his 15th year. They had to trade Marquise Brown. They got a nice draft capital out of that. 2 first-round picks. Kyle Hamilton comes. He's going to be my defensive rookie of the year choice. Tyler Linderbaum. You got a lineman there. They signed Marcus Williams, free safety, as a top 3 safety. That might have been the best free agent deal overall. Peters, Humphrey, Hamilton, Williams, best secondary by far. You're going to look at them. They're going to run the ball a lot, not a lot of deep threats, right? But you got Lamar Jackson, who before he got injured had 200 yards passing and 50 yards rushing in 7 straight games, which is pretty phenomenal if you look at the other players in the league. They need a better pass rush. Like I said, they're not going to kill you. But he's not going to beat you with 450-yard passing games. They're extra games because they came in 4th place at Jacksonville, Denver, at New York Giants, all 3 very winnable. They face at least 10 iffy quarterbacks, I was looking. And I think as a result, they're going to go 12-5, and I'm going over. Parlay Kid, which way are you going on this?
I agree with you here, Sal, with the Ravens. I'm not sure if they're going to win 12. I like them to win 11 games here. Quarterback situation is obviously fantastic with Lamar. Got to get his contract done.
Not signing a deal. It's weird. Right? He's going into the season without a deal.
Yeah, they got to get that taken care of for the guy. He's too good. Obviously now, it's the wrangling with after that Watson contract that's got people, some of these quarterbacks going, hey, what's going on here? They had a great draft, Sal, as you mentioned. Lindenbaum's going to help that offensive line, which is already always solid. J.K. Dobbins is going to be obviously an upgrade to their running back situation that they dealt with most of last year. They have an elite secondary, as you mentioned. You're going to probably go 4-2 in this division minimum. I'm thinking, Sal. You got the Jags, Panthers, Broncos, Falcons, Giants, Jets on this schedule.
I mean, those quarterbacks they're just
and Dolphins at home too. I mean, that's a lot of wins for this team. So I do think they go over 10.5. You said there is one thing not to like about this team, Sal. It's their receiving core is just very suspect. They got a great tight end, but as usual, they give away their best receiver in Brown, who I'm not sure if he was like a true number one. I mean, his numbers were pretty solid though last year, but that's what's not to like about him. But it seems like Lamar can make it work because a lot of his passes are coming out of the pocket anyway in a lot of cases. And what's the one thing I always say about these quarterbacks who can run? That Jackson is not afraid to do it. Unlike some of these other guys who stop running, Jackson is still going to run the ball. He's going to get as close to 1,000 yards rushing. And that's what I like about him. He uses his strengths. Great quarterback. He's going to be an MVP candidate, Sal. I'd put money on him to win the MVP this year, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's not pretty. And if he does it with these guys at receiver, then he should win MVP. It's Bateman, it's Duvernay, and it's Proch the second, right? And you got like DeMarcus Robinson in there. It's not a good-looking group for sure, but I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't. I mean, really, like we were saying stupid things last year, like they're better without Lamar, right? And look at like Tyler Huntley's better. He's just, by the way, Tyler Huntley, like 12 for 13 yesterday.
It was great.
Harry buried you. I think he should be considered for MVP right off the bat. But no, honestly, like it's everybody else. Everybody else fell apart except the Bengals. And that's why the Bengals won that division. I don't want to take anything away from them because I do have them making the playoffs and I do have them going over 9.5. That to me, that's the first wild card right there. 10-7. You got, I get it. The last 6 Super Bowl losers average 8.8 wins the following year. Most of that is in a 16-game schedule. Burrow was sacked 70 times in 20 games. 70 times in 20 games with the Bengals, but I think they bolstered the offensive line. They signed Kappa. They signed Karros. They got Lele Collins. They got our offensive tackle there, Parlay Kid. They lose Azuma and Trey Waynes, the tight end and the cornerback. They drafted well. They like that safety, Daxton Hill out of Michigan. Mixon's a stud, 16 touchdowns last year. Chase over 1,400 yards. Higgins, 300 postseason yards. Look for him. On defense, you got Hendrickson's a red chipper. Their extra games, though, this is what hurts a little. KC at Tennessee and at Dallas. Luckily, though, they play KC and Buffalo at home. Very tough second half. But really, you look at this AFC North, everybody's going to have a tough stretch of 5 or 6 games. So I think they have to go 6-3 the first 9. I think they'll do that. They end at Tampa Bay, at New England, Buffalo, and Baltimore. Really tough for sure. But I still see them getting to 10-7, which is an over bet for me. Harry, what do you like?
Me too, Sal. I got them at 10 as well. Sky's the limit for Burrow and this offense. They had a great season last year. You mentioned Mixon, 1,500 yards. Chase, almost 1,500 receiving. Boyd and Higgins, another 2,000 during the regular season. A great trio of wide receivers on this team. And we don't mention it a lot either, but Evan McPherson, their kicker, was unbelievable in the playoffs last year. And a lot of these games, this division's going to be tough. A lot of these games going to come down to the wire. Why not have one of the best kickers in the league? I think he's probably right now might be the second best kicker behind Justin Tucker. He'll win games late like he did for them in the playoffs last year. So that means a lot at 9.5. I think they get to 10-2. I think it's 10-7 for Cincy.
Still, Justin Tucker's in the division, right? But no, all right. I know what you're saying. It's nice to have that cushion there. All right, let's go. Let's go Steelers first. Even though the Browns are supposed to win more games, the Steelers 7.5, and maybe a lot of this is to get Damashek upset at me, but I'm going under. And Tomlin, I get it. He's never fallen below 500, right? 8-8 or better every year. Now there's 17 games. He's like He wiggled out a win. He was like 9-7-1 last year. It was ridiculous. You looked at that. Brian, they had a stat where they had fewer than 10 points scored. I think it was like 7-3 or 0 in like 9 straight games in the first half. Like they couldn't get it going.
Oh, yeah.
And then they just stuck around. I mean, they were the beneficiary of all these quarterbacks going down. How they lost that game to the Ravens or how they beat the Ravens, I'll never know. They won a crazy Monday night game against the Bears, but it doesn't matter. Roethlisberger's out now. I think, though, you have a quarterback controversy on your hands, which is what Tomlin is not used to. And sometimes that's a bad thing, even if the replacement is better than Big Ben, which it probably will be. They lose Juju. They lose Trey Turner. They signed James Daniel. All right, they're working on the line a little bit. The guard from Chicago. They got Mason Cole, the center from Minnesota. That's a controversial signing. I don't know if Miles Jack, this team, like they have great parts on defense. Obviously Watt can win defensive player of the year any year. But really they don't complement the pieces nicely. Their defense is a little bit overrated. It reminds me of the Cowboys offensive line and how everybody thinks it's good still. And it's not. They had the worst run defense in football last year. George Pickens could help at wide receiver. We might see Kenny Pickett. It looks like it's going to be Trubisky to start off. Brian Flores is in there and the coaching staff. They have 5 primetime games. They open at Cincy, New England, and at Cleveland. They might end with Carr, Lamar, and Watson the last 3 games. I got it at 7-10. Bri, what do you have them at?
Yeah, I'm going to go over. I think they can get to 8 wins. I'm going to give Tomlinson the benefit of the doubt, though, right? Like you said, they've gone 500 or better in 15 seasons with him there. I think it's 18 in total that they've gone 500 or better. I mean, somehow they went 9-7-1 last year, and Big Ben, his QBR was a 36 last year. So
crazy.
I mean, Can Trubisky, can he use his legs, manage the game okay? I mean, if he can win games in Chicago, he still won plenty of games in Chicago for as much, again, as we made fun of him, like Tua, as much as we made fun of him, he still won games there. If he can win in Chicago with their defense, he can win Pitt with their defense, even though, again, maybe Pitt's defense is a little bit overrated, especially stopping the run. I know Bush needs to get better, that's for sure. But the schedule early on is pretty tough. So if they can get past some of these first few games, right? The first 4 weeks are critical for them because then they go Buffalo, Tampa, at Miami, at Philly. So they got to get some wins early on, especially maybe at Cleveland and then versus the Jets. But, they continue to be loaded skill-wise, right? Adding Pickens was just another great receiver that they bring on. I do think maybe adding Brian Flores defensively will make this defense even better. Maybe back to where it was maybe a few years ago. I think they can get, again, they're a team, like I said earlier with the Dolphins, they're a team that have a big variable. I mean, maybe they don't have the chance to win that many games, but you could look at this team with 4 to 10 wins. But I think 8 is about right.
All right. Yeah. I'm just going to go I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about it. I think it's two tiers, right? It's Bengals, Ravens on the top. And it's the Steelers and the Browns. And Parlay Kid, I don't know. We've talked enough about the Browns, I feel like, in the last month or so. But we don't have to spend too much time on it. But I'm going under. I mean, the 8.5. You're really going to go 9 with this team? Like, nothing against Jacoby Brissett, but I don't even know if Deshaun Watson, when he comes back week 12, week 13, whatever it is, he's going to have the juice, right? We were just expecting him to pay dividends. Davis Mills maybe wins that game. I'm going under. Obviously we know the Deshaun thing, they pay him $230 million. They don't even get him for the first 2/3 of the year. They lose Hooper. They lose Landry. They signed our guy, Amari Cooper. They traded for a 5th rounder, which seems pretty great at this point. They re-signed Clowney, Denzel Ward, who's ranked the 6th best cornerback in the league. They had the 2nd best defense at 5 yards per play, but bad inside the red zone. I just think it's going to be tough sledding in the beginning. The extra games are the Chargers at Washington and at Houston. Week 5 through 12 are tough. There's no Watson there. I don't even know that he would help them there. I have them going 7-10. Parlay Kid, a big under.
Yeah,
for me.
7-10 could be generous here, Sal.
Yep.
I'm taking the under 8.5 as well. I almost could have looked at an adjusted line and maybe thought about going under 7.5 here because if you look, the Watson thing is a huge distraction anyway, right? They could say what they want, but it is a distraction. to this team. And here's the thing, Sal. Now that week 1 game at the Panthers, I think that's a loss for the Browns. I think Mayfield, obviously, they're going to be super pumped to play in that game. The Panthers for Mayfield. They're saying all the right things about him there. So what's the best they're going to be after 3? And that's their weak part. It's at Panthers, home versus Jets, home versus Steelers, at Falcons. Let's say they're 2-2 there, Sal. We'll give them 2-2. But Sal, their next 7, as you said, home versus Chargers, home versus Pats, at Ravens, home versus Cincy, at Dolphins, at Bills, home versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. That might be 7 losses in a row.
You're right.
Maybe they get 1 there. Best case scenario, they're sitting 3-8 after 11. And at that point, what are you looking at? I mean, you're going to have to go, what out of those last? They're going to have to go 6-1 down the stretch, or a 6-0 down the stretch, 6-0 down the stretch with Watson back. That's not happening.
Yeah, I think this is easy.
Take the under.
It's not even a spiteful pick, right? It's just like really, it's like 8.5. What the hell are they expecting? Unless they think this is going to be overturned again, but I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm really not.
And when do they ever overachieve?
No, I know. I think we're all
doesn't happen.
Bri, who do you have for the division? I mean, I'm going Ravens plus 145. I think it's their year. I think last year they could have won the division with junk, backup junk in there, plus 145. Harry, you're going Ravens also, right?
Yeah, I'm going Ravens for the division. You mentioned, look, Lamar out for the second half of the season last year, still almost made the playoffs, and with no Dobbin, he's going to be ready. Andrews probably top 3 tight end in football. They play just 3 other teams aside from Pittsburgh and Cincinnati that actually made the playoffs last year. They have a heck of a chance in the second half of the season, starting from week 11 on. Week 11 on, they play Carolina, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh twice, Cleveland, Atlanta. Better be healthy then to take advantage of those wins. And not the greatest against the pass last year, but grabbing the Irish's Kyle Hamilton, the 14th pick overall, is going to help that out a lot. The fantastic running team, and they were a fantastic running team, 3rd most last year, and that was without Dobbins. Now what are they going to do with him? I think it's going to be a 1-2 race, Baltimore and Cincinnati, but Baltimore wins the division.
And Bri, you like the Ravens too. I don't know. There's not much to add, but I like
the Ravens. The thing is, I will say for the AFC is so tough, but these AFC North schedules for these 2 teams, the Ravens and the Bengals, aren't that difficult. But I will say this might come down to the Ravens' extra games, right? They play the Giants and Denver.
Yeah.
And
Seattle,
then the Bengals play.
Yeah.
I forget how the actual one, but the Bengals play. So it's Giants and Denver, right? And the Bengals play the Cowboys in Kansas City, right?
Right.
So that's a pretty big swing just for those 2 games.
Yeah, no. So there's 3 extras, right? So and people dismiss this because it's nonsense. You don't know on the play, but the 3 extras, if you're trying to pick between the Bengals and Ravens, KC at Tennessee and at Dallas, at Cincinnati. Baltimore is at Jacksonville, Denver, and at the Giants. Definitely. I mean, it could be a 2-game difference right in there. Parlay Kid, though, You're saying Bengals to win the division?
Yeah, I have Cincinnati and the Ravens both winning 11, so it's going to have to come down to some type of tiebreaker situation. So I'll just take the team where I'm getting a little bit better odds, at that point. So,
Ravens plus 145, Bengals plus 170, Browns plus 370, Steelers plus 950. Yep.
If I have them both winning 11, I got it. I'll take the plus 170 here with Cincinnati. I know their schedule's a little bit more difficult, but man, their offense should be absolutely tremendous this year. A lot more firepower than that Ravens offense. The Ravens make it up on the defensive side, of course, but I'll just take, all things being equal in my mind between these 2 teams in terms of how many wins I think they're going to have. I'll take the plus 170 here. Cincinnati wins the division by the slimmest of margins.
And that's a week 18 game. Cincinnati's home, so that's going to be good. Almost definitely,
yes, no
used
doubt,
to decide at least a playoff position. All right, other non-player props for the AFC North. I'm going Steelers 3rd place plus 240. I may have done this wrong. There might be a better way to do this. Parlay Kid, you're going Browns 4th place plus 195.
Yeah, well,
I think there's 2 tiers. I'm getting more value, I think, for Steelers coming in third.
Right. I actually liked yours. I wasn't going to double up on it.
Right.
But, you could do both, because this division is going to be tough to pick the top two.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I can do exact order, but I like Steelers third, Browns fourth. I would probably double up on both of those in those cases, but you are getting a little bit more favorable odds with the Steelers third than I am with the Browns. I think I'm getting plus 195 for them to finish last in that division. I like it, but obviously yours at, what'd you say, plus 230?
240.
240?
For third place for the Steelers. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. I love it, Sal.
I don't think they have enough to get to 8, even 9 or 10 wins, or what it's going to take to be in top 2 in the AFC. But I think they'll stomp on the Browns early and enough to get third place. Bri, you're doing the 4 here. It's kind of what we're all saying here, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about what you guys are talking about, but I'm going Raven, right? The exact order: Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. So really, you're saying Ravens slightly edge the Bengals, right? And the Steelers slightly edge the Browns in terms of. I mean, I do like the Steelers better than the Browns here, but that's 12-1. It seems
that's pretty good.
Those seems high. Those seem high, right? Like you can flip that if you like the Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns. It's 13-1. But
I think that's the way to do it.
I think those odds are really good. I
think I'm jumping on that right after this podcast.
It just seems out of whack. But
do it now if you want, Parlay Kid. I'll give you time if you want to do it now. No, no, you're right, because I think there's at least a 3-game difference, or about a 3-game difference between the Bengals and the Steelers, or the second place team and the Steelers, right? Yeah. And so then if you like that, that's the way to tinker with those. But Harry, I like this as well. I passed on it, but I'll have this on my ledger at some point. Bengals to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's at minus 144. Meanwhile, Sal, I did like your Steelers one too. I was thinking of that one too, but then I didn't like Parlay Kid said I didn't want to double up on that one either, but I do like the Steelers to finish third. But Cincinnati minus 144 to make the playoffs. Look, last year when we were going over these, I gave out Cincinnati when you guys all scoffed at me. Gave out Cincinnati at plus 450 to make the playoffs, and look what happened. Came in with ease, and that look, Burrow's a winner last year. He wants to prove that it wasn't a fluke. Players love head coach Zach Taylor. The defense is awesome as well. They're very deep. I think they're going to win late games because of players like linebacker Logan Wilson led the team in tackles. Sal, you mentioned Hendrickson. He was a free agent pickup a couple years ago from New Orleans. 14 sacks last year. I think his over-under is like 12.5 this year. And safety Von Bell had 97 tackles, 3 forced fumbles. A lot of it's going to do with their defense, and I think Burrow's going to be able to get things done late in games. They're going to pull it out, and they're going to make the playoffs for the second year in a row.
All right, I'm not fighting it, and good job by you picking them to make the playoffs last year. That was a real gem in the rough, as they say. But all right, that'll do it. Babyface, what do you got? You got this about what do you have this about Harry? Could he? Weed products? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we could wait till we do the Giants, but I was wondering if Harry will stay away from any weed products until the Giants win a game this season.
No, he wouldn't do that.
He could.
Nah, why? Who cares?
Preseason game, maybe. No,
pulled it out last night.
Yeah, I don't think he's not up for it. Yeah,
not up for it right now, Joel. I still need this stuff, Joel. I'm still recovering from COVID. Still need this.
Of course, yes.
Also, Sal, weather update: 50% chance now of rain tonight in the
Good
Bronx.
For you guys. Yeah, because now I'm trying to figure out. It is weird that not that I'm worried about seeing the late July, early August version of Garrett Cole, but it is weird that the Mets avoided him. So. You get a rain delay in there. You don't want him in there, Parlay Kid?
No, I'm just wondering if they would go. You're right. I don't think because they're so close. I doubt they'd go into a doubleheader tomorrow. Am I correct? Would they just make that game up?
You see,
on
they can make it up on the day.
Teams?
Yeah, I don't think the Mets have those rain dates filled yet. So I think you're right. They might just do it on a random Monday in 3 weeks or something. There you go. All right, Harry, you did say the jungle's back with Cincinnati. We went over AFC North. We went over AFC East. We'll put out a graphic for everybody who was kind of not really paying attention. And then tomorrow we're going over AFC South and AFC West. We're going to do this all week, and that'll do it for another episode of Against All Odds. For Spaghetti, for Meatballs, for Babyface Joel Solomon, and the Degenerate Trifecta, I'm Sal saying so long and happy handicapping.